Well, it's a big day around college football. This is where everybody gets to say what a great recruiting class they have. That's why Tony was in here first, so he could do what's normally what people do about recruiting classes. I will say that our coaches did an outstanding job. They worked extremely hard. They were all over the country. They recruited against, in my opinion, recruited against people that we haven't recruited much against in the past. So we're getting in a lot more homes of more highly recruited players than we have in the past. And our coaches did a nice job of getting in there, slugging it out with some of those other schools, and I think we came up with a pretty good class. The other guys that people don't realize that are important to recruiting is our players. Our players have as much to do. It's up to the coaches to get those kids on campus and show them what we have here at San Diego State, but then it's the players that have a lot of influence on whether those kids come here or not. And I truly believe that we have great kids in our program. They believe in how we do things around here, and so they're going to get like kids. So the kids coming into the program know what to expect. They get here, they most of the time have the same attitude about things, and the program gets better and stronger because the talent level is improving, but they come in with the right attitude. They're not coming in with false expectations. My opinion is that a lot of people recruit and tell them whatever the heck they want to hear, and then it's a shock to them when they get on campus. Obviously, we don't do that around here. Now, the best recruiting we did was we have a junior class that will be seniors next year that probably have, in my opinion, 6 guys that possibly would have been drafted coming out as juniors, and all of them came back. Now, that's our best recruiting job. On the rest of those guys, we're happy, and they look really good on high school film, but we'll see how good they are 2 or 3 years from now. Any questions?
Coach Weiss said that you hear about San Diego State being the sleeping giant of football, and you mentioned you're now getting into places that you might not have been able to go to before. Is it more the winning and the consistency that San Diego State has gotten, or maybe more the national recognition that you've gotten that's helping you get into these places you haven't gotten to before?
I think it's truly that you win, and as you win, more people seem to follow you, and kids follow teams that are winning. And then if you get on national TV, and the better you are, the more national TV games you get. They see you on national TV, and those kids watch every bowl game. So if you're in a bowl game and you play well in the bowl game, I think there's some interest developed. But I think it's mostly consistency. Those kids want to go someplace you're going to win. They want to go someplace that you're going to be in bowl games. They want to go some places where you have a true chance to win a championship. Now, we still fight the battle of the traditionally perceived big-time teams. We still fight that battle a lot. That's why the schedule is so important, that we get as many of those guys on our schedule as possible so we have a chance to play against them. But I think we're getting in more homes because our reputation is growing.
You talked about the influence of your players on getting your recruiting class straight. Where would that play into with a guy like Christian Chapman getting you 2 more Lancers on your team?
Well, I'm guessing it had a lot to do with it. Now, obviously, when they came on trips, we put them with a host. Everybody has their own host while they're here that's on our football team. And Christian Chapman happened to be those guys' host, but he already knew who they were because he played with them. So there's a familiarity there that adds or helps recruiting, I'm sure. And I have great faith in our players that are in our program now. They will come to us and tell us if a guy doesn't fit in. Our program's different than a lot of people's programs. I mean, if you don't see it, you're not watching very close. We do things a lot different than a lot of people do nowadays. I mean, and it really attracts a certain brand of kid, and that's the kind. And they're great kids, and they work hard, and they have the right values, and that's the kind of kids that's fun to be around. So it's fun to be coaching them.
Has winning also led you to go out of state more and go after guys? You got one guy from Pennsylvania, or is that just kind of something that
Early on, 5 years ago, we went out of state on purpose, thinking that we might be able to attract a higher caliber athlete than we could close to home because of the history of the program. 3 years ago, that was not the case. And we've tried to stay as close to home as at all possible to get the kind of talent we need. What has happened over the last 3 years is they're calling us. We're not going out anymore to far-reaching areas looking for them anymore. We canvass California, Arizona, Nevada. That's the only 3 states that we canvass, which means we check with every single high school and junior college in those 3 states. Past that, it's them contacting us. And then obviously it's very easy nowadays with technology. It's very easy to get them on film and see how good they are. And if they're good, and then we jump right into the recruiting process. If they can play, we jump right in. But we're not looking for them. They're contacting us, which is another sign that our reputation is expanding and that people outside of our region are starting to see a pretty good football team.
Yeah, is that because they're seeing you guys on TV and winning, or they saw that there's a beach out here?
Well, I think because they've seen us on TV and they like the way we play football. And winning has a lot to do with it. But you saw the size of our offensive linemen. All those guys, and I love big guys. I mean, I don't do a lot. Head coaches don't do a lot of the actual recruiting. But you do tell them what to go look for. Okay? And I love big guys. I mean giants. I love giants. And a lot of people that run different kind of offense than we do, they're not made for giant-type players. These kids want to be NFL football players. We run an NFL offense, okay? And they can show their skills much better in our system than they can in other people's systems. That's why the 6'6", 345-pound guy from Philadelphia wants to be here. We got a couple others that will probably enroll next January that have already committed to us too. But you only have so many scholarships or they'd be here now. So those kind of kids, those kind of linemen are calling us because they want to be in the NFL, and we run an NFL offense. And they've seen it on TV. You know, NFL, they run power plays. They try to knock you off the ball. Then they have to have the great big guys on the corners with long arms to keep the guy away from the quarterback. Spread teams, they throw the ball so fast you can't get there if you want to get there. They don't have to block anybody. They just get in the way. So these kids have a chance to come here and prove that they're NFL football players. Besides that, I love Giants anyway. I just like walking out there and looking at them.
The Rockies Chase Jasmine, a clone of Pumphrey. What's his style like?
No, he's not. He's not a clone of Pumphrey. I don't know who to compare him to. We actually have right now. We have probably 4 really good running backs in our program, including DJ, and he is in the same class as they are, but all 5 of them run the ball differently. I mean, we had 2 really good running backs last year, DJ and Chase Price, and they ran the ball completely differently, but they both had very good success. Actually, it helps us if they have different styles because you throw a different style in there and it kind of messes with the defense a little bit.
Rock, you like big guys, you also like physical guys. Can a player come here and survive in this program if they don't have that physical kind of game, kind of mindset?
Well, I don't know. We don't know these kids well enough to know their mindset. A young man can come into this program and play in a certain system in high school where you can't tell if they're physical or not. Now it all comes down to what their mindset is. And I don't think that any kid with the right mindset cannot make it in our program.
Did you make that clear to them during the recruiting process that this is what's expected of you?
We don't have to. They're with our players. Players don't lie to players. So we don't have to lie, and our players sure don't lie about the way we run our program. So if a young man we're recruiting does not feel that, our players tell them how it's going to be. If they don't like that, we don't get them. And if we don't get them, we don't want them. I mean, we want guys that want to be here. You know, there's guys, I'm watching TV right now, there's guys decommitting from this school and going to that school and decommitting from this school and going to that school, and they're marking down all the guys that are the top recruiting classes in the country, and you have no idea who has the top recruiting class in the country. That's all speculation. Any kid that doesn't want to come here, we don't want them here. We want kids that want to be with us.
Yeah, I definitely assume that was true, but is it also difficult when you have kids calling in that last week, especially you might have named you or had an idea of where they slotted into your future to call and say, hey, I'm moving on, going somewhere else?
Is that difficult? It makes you feel bad sometimes because you spend a lot of time. And it makes you feel bad sometimes because basically they've lied to you. And if we did the same thing to them, we'd be raked over the coals. If I offered a kid a scholarship and been offering a kid a scholarship for 6 months, and then 4 or 5 days before signing, I called him up and said, guess what? I don't have a scholarship anymore. I mean, we'd be raked over the coals. But for some reason, it's okay for a kid to be committed to you for 6 months, and then 5 days before signing, him calling you up and saying, hey, guess what? I'm decommitting. And everybody thinks that's all right. Well, that's not all right. That's not the way the world should work. You give your word, you give your word. So we would never do that to a kid. Okay, but when a kid does it to us, that means he didn't want to be here. We don't want him. It's as simple as that. That doesn't make it right, though.
Where are you sitting in the gray shirting world? I know, obviously, your sheet, people you can't discuss that are, but where are we sitting with that right now?
There's 3 or 4 gray shirts out there. I mean, it basically, all it means is we have kids that want to be here, that we think can play and can help us get better, and we don't have enough scholarships to give them. And what's interesting is they would rather gray shirt with us than take a scholarship someplace else. So they're our kind of guys. And now there's another, we're honest right up front. We tell them weeks in advance that is the plan. There's a lot of programs that tell them the day before signing, we're out of scholarships. Do you still want a gray shirt? And that's the first time they hear about it. That's not right either. I mean, it goes both ways. That's not right either. So,
Does the makeup of this class suggest any potential changes in 2 or 3 years to the offense?
I don't think it does. It doesn't suggest that necessarily. Now, this is like a clinic talk. Our offense and defense is based on who our best players are. So whoever our best players are, that's how we would adjust the offense or defense. And we have, and I heard Tony say this, and he's exactly right. One of the things that they went out, our coaches did a nice job. I said, we want big guys. We want big guys, and they got a whole bunch of big guys. And I also told them we don't want anybody other than a quarterback that is a specialist. We don't want a guy that all he plays is wide receiver. We don't want that guy. We don't want a guy that all he does is play DB. We want a guy that can play either way on both sides of the ball, and then we make our team better by where we need his skills. You know, we have a tight end or a couple tight ends in there that might not play tight end, but they're athletic guys. In fact, one of them was the starting quarterback on his high school team for the last 2 years. When we recruited him, he was 6'6" and 250 pounds. Now he's 6'7" and 285 pounds. We might have to, but I don't think he's going to play quarterback. But guess what? He can, because he's done it for 2 years. He can play quarterback if he has to. We actually got 8 quarterbacks on our team already. Now 3 of them are playing a different position, but they're there if we need them.
You said 8?
Mm-hmm. We have 8 quarterbacks on our team.
Or guys that played quarterback in the past, like in high school.
Yes, and very successful high school quarterbacks.
Do they still see themselves as quarterbacks? They lobby you every now and then?
They lobby you for the first year, and then they stop. I think they still think they're quarterbacks, though, but they just stop asking about it because they know we're not giving in.
Does that mean we can see a tight end option or something?
I don't know. You know, we got a quarterback. We got a quarterback that was a tight end that used to be a quarterback. We got a fullback that used to be a quarterback. We got a wide receiver that used to be a quarterback. And if you ask any of our DBs, all of them think they can do everything. So, yes.
I'm sure you're, go ahead, Lee.
Rocky, what's the biggest challenge for a JUCO offensive lineman or defensive lineman to make it right out of the gate?
Well, we're in the position in our program now that we only recruit junior college players where there's a gap, and I want to explain that there's a gap. We would like our positions stair-stepped. In other words, we'd like so many seniors, so many juniors, so many sophomores, so many freshmen. We have a formula of by every position how many scholarship kids we think we need at every position. Offensive line is 15. And that's the biggest group we have. So if you have an offensive line that has 5 seniors and 4 juniors and no sophomores and 3 or 4 freshmen, there's a good chance you're going to go out and find 2 junior college linemen that have 3 to play 3. Or if you have no juniors, there's a good chance you're going to go out and recruit 3 or 4 JC offensive linemen that fit in that junior class. And there's a lot of reasons you might have holes in your stair-step system. A kid could get hurt and not be able to play again. A kid could not like it here and leave. A kid could academically be ineligible. A kid could be really, really good and come out as a junior. So there's a lot of reasons that you would recruit a JC guy. We only, because our program's in good shape, we only recruit junior college guys when there's a gap. Okay? And the hardest part for a junior college guy to make an immediate difference in your program is the speed and size of the game. But because they played at a little higher level, size-wise and speed-wise at the junior college level, they have a better chance to make an immediate impact than a freshman would. And the closer to the line of scrimmage, I heard Tony say this too. I hate to repeat myself, but I say it all the time. The closer the line of scrimmage you get, the more mature you have to be. We got freshman giants coming in here. We would play against those seniors that aren't quite giants, and those seniors would beat the heck out of those freshmen. Just because they've been around long enough, they're stronger. They're men. As they get to be juniors and seniors, they're men.
You have a lot of guys coming back, so of these freshmen coming in next fall, how many could you see making an immediate impact?
That's another thing. I don't know how good this recruiting class, we think it's going to be good, but we don't know how good they are, and we don't have any idea which freshmen might play. All of them will be given a chance to play, and if they're in our 2 deep on either offense or defense, they will play as freshmen. And if you ask every one of them right now, and since most of them have signed, we're still waiting for a couple, but most of them have signed, you can tell them the truth too. I mean, they'll be given a chance, but most of them aren't going to play. But every one of them will tell you that they'll play. Some of them will even tell you they're coming and they're going to start for us. And we let them believe that until right now.
Rocky, the way I interpret last month's Power 5 agreement at the NCAA convention that only an athletic trainer or medical professional, not the coach, can clear a player to return to play after injury, my interpretation is binding for the Power 5, but optional for anybody else. Did you have to explain the return to play policy to any of your recruits during those 3 weeks between the Power 5 adoption and today?
We do explain that, but we don't have to. I mean, we do explain that, but we've always gone on that premise that you just said. Our program has always been a program that coaches have no say-so on whether a kid plays or practices. We have no say-so. Our team doctors and our trainers decide who gets to go back in the game or who gets to play. And I would guess, I've only been at a few schools, but I would guess every reputable university has the exact same policy. Power 5, non-Power 5, Division 3, NAIA. I mean, every reputable university has the same policy. They can't legislate conscience.
If it takes 5 years to judge a recruiting class, what do you think of your 2011 recruiting?
I don't think it takes 5. I think about 2 or 3. I mean, the seniors we got coming back have a chance to be really good. It's more important to view last year's seniors. I bet you go back, and I do this every year, you go back and look at that recruiting class when it came out and see how much different that senior class was that started 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Some of them played 4 straight years. And you would have never guessed that they could win in 11 games, and just looking at the recruiting list, you would have never guessed they'd won 11 games in 10 straight and won the conference championship and won a bowl game by that margin. You would have never guessed that. I mean, it wasn't a highly recruited class. We didn't have any 5-star guys in that group. We got 6 guys on our football team right now that will be in the NFL, that will be seniors next year and will be in an NFL camp. And the highest rated guy in that group was a 3-star guy. Some of those guys had no stars, and they will play in the NFL.
So you coached them up?
Nope. They had enough talent, and they wanted to bad enough they became really good players. But our coaches, in evaluation, did a great job of evaluating kids that weren't heavily recruited that could play. Our coaches did the evaluation. The kids did the work. They made themselves players. They had athletic ability, but they made themselves players. We didn't. Now, we direct them and we guide them, but they don't have to do it.
How do people miss on players like that? You know, scouting services, you know, your Pac-12 schools. How does everyone just not see that in a player like that that can become an NFL caliber prospect?
Well, scouting services basically do it by who's recruiting them. So if I'm a scouting service and SC and Alabama are recruiting you, I'm gonna give you a lot of stars.
Tail wags the dog.
If nobody's recruiting you, guess what? I'm not gonna give you any stars. I love telling these stories. There are times when you recruit a kid that he's a 2-star guy, and you're recruiting him all the way to the very end, and then some big-time school loses a recruit, and they come back in on your kid that you've been recruiting for 6 months, and they come back in, and that kid then decommits and commits to them, and the next time you turn your computer on, he's a 4-star guy. It happens every year. It happened just a little while ago. Kid was committed to a school in our conference. 2-star guy. It just happened 24 hours ago. Switched to USC. Now he's a 4-star guy. So they have no credibility whatsoever. But everybody likes to talk about who's got the highest recruiting class, right? Highest rated recruiting class. Evaluations of kids are very, very difficult because you can pick out a very good high school player does not mean he's going to be a successful college football player. NFL spends millions of dollars evaluating players. Okay, college players. And just because you're a great college football player does not mean you're going to be a great NFL football player. Every year there's first-round draft choices that are out of the league in 3 years. And those are supposed to be the for sure guys, right? Those are the no-miss guys. And they spend a lot more time and a lot more effort and a lot more people evaluating those guys than we do.
A lot of that because you don't see hard work ethic till you see them day to day.
Well, you don't see what's inside of them. Until you have them in person, you don't see what's inside of them. But you also don't see how they're going to compete against a higher level. They might be fast enough, and they might be big enough, and they might jump high enough. But as soon as they get with someone just like them, maybe they kind of fade away because they don't want to fight hard enough. They don't want to compete. And then you have another guy that nobody thinks can play, and he's willing to compete, and all of a sudden he's all pro. You know, there's a lot of guys that were free agents that ended up all pro. So there's an inexact science for sure.
You mentioned how, there's, it's easy to look up a kid really quickly, you can find film. But out of like the recruits you signed today, are any of the guys, maybe you don't want to name names, but were there a couple of guys where you were surprised when you watched your film, like, whoa, this guy isn't getting recruited by anyone?
The ones we find that we think that, boy, I can't believe nobody's recruiting him, we try to keep really quiet. Because we don't want them to find them sooner, then we don't want them to find them.
Because it'll happen.
It's funny how as soon as you have a kid commit to you, I love telling these stories too. As soon as somebody commits to you, they weren't getting recruited by anybody, and now all of a sudden they're getting recruited by everybody. There are some schools that will look at other people's commit list and recruit right off of somebody else's commit list because they don't trust their own evaluation.
In some ways, do you have to work harder than a school in a Power 5 to find those guys so that maybe the schools in that Power 5 look at you and say, well, they had to script and search everywhere and find this guy, so they led the way, so now I'm just gonna grab it because they've had to do more homework than we've had because we have a bigger net to work with.
No, I don't think we work any harder. I think it's all by program, and I don't care what your status is or what conference you're in. It's all by program. Some guys do not work hard, and they totally work off the recruiting services. They totally work off star status, and other programs work like crazy to find the guys that they think they can get that will eventually be just as good as that 5-star guy that other people aren't willing to take the time and look for. I think our coaches work really, really hard at finding really good players that we actually can recruit.
Is that the most fascinating part of all this process is what an Urlacher or a Stony Case or a Kirk Morrison evolves into?
We'll even go that. I mean, those guys are ancient history. How about a DJ Pumphrey? I don't remember any big name school recruiting him, and guess what? He could play at any school in this country, and they would be really happy to have him. I mean, he's better than most of the running backs in the country. Everybody'd love to have DJ. I mean, so that stuff happens all the time.
You mentioned how, kids decommit these days. Does it kind of increase the respect for the kids that commit early and stay committed? And also, because you mentioned DJ, he's coming back. You have a running back that's committed, Chase Jasmine. He knows already that he's probably going to have to wait a bit behind a guy like Pumphrey. Do you have a little bit extra just respect for those kind of kids that kind of think of the full picture?
I have a lot of respect for the kid. I have a lot of respect for the kids that commit and stay committed. I have a lot of respect for them and their families. I have a lot of respect for the kid that looks at your depth chart and goes, "Oh my God, I'm a running back, and you got 3 really good running backs. I don't care. I'm just as good as they are. I'm going to go compete." As opposed to the kid that looks at your roster and goes, "Oh my God, they got 3 good running backs. I got to go find some place they don't have any good running backs." How about going someplace that's going to make you be as good as you can be? I mean, and we run into all that stuff. I mean, we lose kids. I'll tell a quick story. We lost several recruits we wanted this year because other schools came in there and said, "Why would you go there? They got all these guys already. They got all these players already. Why would you go there?" And we would tell the kid, "Well, all our guys they're talking about are seniors. They're going to be gone by the time you're ready to play. Why would you go there where they got all those good players and you can come to our school and play as a freshman?" Well, I mean, the kid that's going to go there because he can play as a freshman, he doesn't want to be at the best place. So when they tell us that, we say, "Okay, good. We didn't want you anyway."
And you guys must be happy with that approach, sort of, because like you had players of the year that you used as hosts, and I'm sure you did, right? And when they host recruits, like either DeMonte Casey or Pumphrey or Rashad Penny, they host the recruit. That's a sign of you it right in front of the kid, like, hey, this is the player, he's still gonna be on the team, and it's just more competition.
Yeah, we try to match. It's not always the best players that are our host. We try to match personalities. Yeah, so, but DeMonte Casey was a host for one of our DBs that committed that happened to be recruited by every school in the Pac-12. So obviously that kid's a competitor. He's not worried about DeMonte. He also knows DeMonte's going to be a senior, and maybe that makes him think he's going to take over for him the next year. But he didn't shy away because DeMonte was his host. He probably thought it was pretty cool. Where the kid that's not confident in his ability, he'd shy away.
What do you say though, that still, that was one of the biggest obstacles because you had the guys announce that they're returning basically a month ago, and you had a full month.
I don't think it's an obstacle at all to the kind of kids we want in this program. It is an obstacle if you're recruiting a junior college player, because junior college players only have a couple years, and they have to find a place that they think they can play right now. And I totally understand that from a junior college player. High school player, he ought to go where he has to develop his skills faster. That'll make him a better player when he's a junior and senior.
Is that why you only have like 3 JUCO guys this year?
We only had a couple of slots where we needed older guys. Yeah.
Rocky, do you think we're going to get to the early signing period?
I sure hope so. I've been for that for 20 years. And I know every year it's put up to the NCAA, but it's starting to get more backing than it used to have. I mean, all the other sports do it, or a lot of the other sports do it. And I don't see anything wrong with an early signing date in December and then another one in February. I don't see anything wrong with that. I actually think it would save schools money, except some schools don't need to save money because they got too much to spend anyway. And other schools would like to save a little money. But you would prevent kids from taking trips just to take trips. And that there's a lot of that going on right now. They already know where they're going, but someone offers them a all-expense-paid trip for them and their parents for a weekend where they get to stay in a very nice hotel. They get fed very, very well. They get treated very, very nicely. Well, there's kids that already know where they're going, but they'll take 5 trips. I mean, that's – so you would get a lot of that out of the way by an early signing date.
Coach, I know there are some programs that have kind of a rule that you're supposed to take one quarterback at every class, like no matter what. Any disappointment and not getting a quarterback, and do you think it's a must to sign a quarterback?
No, I don't think you have to sign a quarterback every year if that's what you're asking. And originally we would have signed a quarterback. It didn't work out that way. I think I just said we have 8 quarterbacks in our program already. And we have we got 5 that are going to play quarterback. Only 3 scholarship guys, 2 of them are walk-ons, but we have 5 guys that are going to play quarterback in the spring. So that's plenty of quarterbacks. I mean, we wouldn't amount. We wanted 1 quarterback in this class, but it's not a big deal that we didn't get one.
What do you see the 5 quarterback aspect, kind of like what you were mentioning earlier about being an obstacle? In this case, it was an obstacle.
No, I don't think it was an obstacle. I think that the obstacle was when we found out we didn't have a quarterback. It was too late to go find another one.
How does it work with kids, recruits that don't qualify academically? When you move on, or how does that work?
They can get academically eligible all the way through the summer. So if they're not academically eligible by the time you start practice, that just gives you an extra number. In a lot of cases, you give it to a walk-on. And we've been really lucky here. We've had a lot of good kids walk on here that become really good players for us. So in our case, it's always worked out just fine when a guy wasn't academically eligible because we had a deserving walk-on to give that scholarship to.
Coach, one guy who's not coming but leaving, Jeff Overbaugh, got rave reviews for his performance in the Senior Bowl. Can you just talk about what would make him a good NFL prospect at a position that not many people really think about?
Help me out, Mike. How many without a mistake? 500 and
Like 10.
500. He was our starting deep snapper from the time he was a true freshman. He had 510 snaps without one that was even close to being considered bad. Most of them were perfect. I never mentioned it last year because he had done it for 3 straight years, and I'm superstitious, and I was afraid if I said something, I would jinx him. But he went through his whole career here without a bad snap. He's big enough. He's fast enough. He can cover. And I'm sure his times will be good enough. I mean, they're going to time how fast he gets it back there and all that. He will be an NFL football player. He'll be playing for somebody. And as long as he doesn't push for too much money, he'll be playing for a long, long time.
Anything else for Coach?
How did you manage to recruit The Rock, by the way?
Oh, I don't know though. But when we try to put highlights up on the kids that sign with us. And every time we try to find a highlight, that's who came up, The Rock. So, Dwayne Johnson, yeah, I know. We found highlights. We eventually get to the right one. We find highlights. He's getting bigger and bigger though. The Rock is. Every time I see him in a commercial, he's bigger.
You know his history at Qualcomm Stadium?
I don't know that, no.
His Miami days?
Well, I know he played at Miami. I know that.
Yeah, he came here and tried to chase Monty Montezuma up into the stands during a game. Big old fight.
Who won?
I don't think he actually caught him.
Oh, he didn't catch him.
Yeah, but Dwayne said he got his tail whipped by his mom who was watching the game on TV, though.
That's because he couldn't. Who was he playing against? He couldn't catch Marshall, so he chased the Aztec.
Nobody could catch Marshall, though.
I know.
I noticed Dwayne Johnson Jr. went to the same, or goes to the same high school that John Sanchez did. Is Dwayne John's, shall we say, contribution to San Diego State post-graduation?
Ask me that again. I didn't
I
get
said I
that.
noticed Dwayne Johnson.
He's from the same school as John Sanchez, yeah.
Yeah. Was John instrumental in getting?
Oh, no, probably not a lot because they're so different in age. Now, they know of each other, but they don't know each other. Because John was gone right as he was coming in as a freshman. John Sanchez was already leaving to come here when that kid was coming in as a freshman. So they know of each other. They don't know each other. I think our coaches have a real good relationship with that school, and we recruit a kid out of that school almost every year because they have a really good football program. So there's always kids to recruit. We don't always get them, but we're always recruiting somebody out of that school. And having someone that played at that school that had success helps.